Peter from Brisbane Town Planning today, and we're going to ask some questions, and she's going to answer some questions for us around renovations, because obviously that's what we're talking about today. So I thought I'd get Peter in to maybe discuss with us some of the issues, maybe the top 2 or 3 things that people are having issues with in relation to renovating the house that they're currently living in.
Okay, cool. So much I could talk about here.
Awesome.
Let's limit it to 3 things. Okay, so the number 1 hot potato or topical issue we've got at the moment, I'd have to say, is street trees. So technically speaking, any trees that are planted between your boundary, your front boundary, and council's curb, the edge of the footpath sort of thing, is protected. You can't just go and chop those down, start pruning those sort of thing. They're council assets. So we have people often, they'll turn up and go, oh great, there's my house there. Oh, I'm just going to whack a driveway in there. I'm going to build a garage there. It's going to be beautiful. And then we turn up and we look at the plans and go, oh, you got a street tree in front there. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen, guys. You're not going to get approval to remove that tree to get access through there.
Right.
And the next thing I point out is it's not just the trunk of the tree. It's the root ball below the tree. So if you want to get a little bit technical, if you impact on more than 10% of that root ball, the tree won't survive, in super simple terms. Wherever the branches or the leaves go to above is where the roots are below.
Right. Okay.
So wherever the canopy goes, there's the root ball. You can't encroach into more than 10%, otherwise the tree will die, and therefore council's going to say, no, you can't use that access way. So we've seen so many situations recently where people have had to flip their entire design to get the driveway from this side of the house to that side of the house. Suddenly you're going from having the garage on the western side, blocking that horrible afternoon sun, to being on the eastern side where you want your recreation areas. It's not nice. So that's my biggest tip, is don't underestimate the power of those street trees.
I would never have thought that where the street tree is would affect you. It just seems like such an obvious thing to go, all right, well, we'll move that out the way and we'll put the driveway here. Okay, so that's a big issue for people.
Yeah, and everyone always says to me, oh, it's just a piddly little tree, or I planted that 5 years ago, or oh, we'll just agree to replant trees. The council will plant like 3 trees in exchange for 1 tree. Used to work, but unfortunately those replantings just don't survive. We don't have enough water, going through drought, all of that sort of stuff.
Right.
So council sits there and goes, why are we going to agree to let you remove it if we have no guarantee we're going to get the replacement? Let's just keep what we've got.
Okay, good to know. Excellent tip. What else have you got for us?
Let's stay on the tree theme. Okay. Let's go protected vegetation, also known as NAL, or Natural Assets Local Laws. Bit of a mouthful. Essentially, if you pull up to a site and you see some large trees or gum trees, that should be an alarm bell for you to go, oh, these trees could be protected. So you need to get in touch with Brisbane City Council to suss out whether there is NAL on the property, whether they are protected.
So not just around the property, not just the government portion of the property.
Within your property boundary.
Personal property, okay.
Yeah. Those trees are protected. You again need council approval to remove them, and the chances are council won't agree to remove them. Building on the previous point, it's not just the trunk of the tree, it's the roots below the tree. That can have a significant impact on your building envelope or your allowed building area. So we had a site just recently, it was in Brisbane, and the client turned around and went, oh, we just had some guys turn up on the weekend, some just local workers basically, turned up and said, hey, do you want us to remove that tree for you? We'll charge you X amount. And she was like, oh yeah, actually I've been worried that tree would fall down. Yeah, just go and remove it for me. It's a protected tree.
Right.
She's now in a bit of trouble.
Okay.
And the reason why it's come to our attention is she's proposed works at the side, at the rear all of a sudden, and council's looked at those works and gone, that's nice, but there was a tree there before. Where did that tree go?
Right.
There was nothing when she purchased the property to signal the fact that that vegetation would be protected. So I feel sorry for her, because she's going, how was I supposed to know this?
Yeah, how would anybody know? Especially, and I assume this comes up in certain scenarios, like if you want to build a pool in your backyard or something like that.
Yeah.
If there is a big tree there, and you put in, you know, for council approval, it could come back and say, no, that tree's protected.
So the way it should work is, so the certification industry, certifiers issue building approvals. Certification industry was privatised, I believe, in the late 1990s. So it's the certifier's role to go through and check that all the town planning requirements have been met, all of the council requirements have been met. That should get picked up as part of the certifier's checking process. It doesn't always get picked up, unfortunately. These things can slip through, or if you don't actually need building approval for any reason, say it's too small for building approval, there's no one doing those checks and it can slip through.
Okay, trees can become an issue, so it turns out. You got a third tip for us?
Oh, which one? Let's go flooding.
Okay,
Let's
flooding, right? Because we live in Brisbane and
we live in a big floodplain. So, okay, when it comes to flooding, super simple terms here. You've got 2 requirements that you need to comply with. Number 1, a minimum habitable and non-habitable floor requirement, which is based on the level of water on the property. You need to be 300 mils, 30 centimetres above for non-habitable spaces, garages, laundries, things like that. and then you need to be 50 centimetres above that flood level for habitable spaces. Bedrooms, lounge rooms, all of that sort of stuff. So you need to work out what the water level is. You can get that from the Floodwise property report.
Okay.
And then you need to be 300 or 500 above that, depending on the type of room that you're building. However, there is also the undercroft requirement. So the undercroft requirement is designed to allow, when a flood occurs, for the debris to flow through under the house. If you're too close to the ground, you're going to get debris stuck under there. It makes it harder for people to do the clean-up stuff after the flood's gone. So they say that you need to be either 1.5 or 2.5 metres off the ground to allow that water to flow through.
Right.
That 1.5 to 2.5 depends on the velocity of water, the amount of water, all this technical sort of stuff. Now you can apply to council to get it to reduce to potentially as low as 1 metre, but I haven't seen council go below the 1 metre yet. So they still want something there. The problem with this is often you end up with a house that kind of looks a bit like a spaceship. Not so pretty.
It's floating above the ground to some degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you go through like Rockley and those areas where they have really bad flood problems, you'll see these little houses sitting up on stilts and they just look like spaceships. It's weird.
Okay. Wow.
And everyone always comes to me and goes, but I don't like that, and I don't want front stairs at the front of my house. I don't want to drive up a ramp to get my car in my garage.
Great.
Yeah, unfortunately that's the council rules. That's the way it is.
Okay. Excellent tips. I really think, like, I wouldn't have even known about that myself. And I think I've had previous discussions with Peter about all things renovation, because obviously we do a lot of this stuff with our clients and this is Peter's area of expertise. Probably one of the biggest things that you've said to me before and that I have said to people is that if renovating is something that you want to do, you're actually better off trying to find the specific property to renovate before actually having the property. So often we buy houses or properties that we're like, great, I'm going to renovate it at some stage in the future, and that's awesome. And then you would approach someone like Peter to help with that. But you don't know what you don't know about that property, right? So like, for example, your client who had a big tree, she didn't know, she just got it chopped down. And I wouldn't have known that about it either. So if renovating is something people are really passionate about, they should really be considering the property before they purchase it, shouldn't they?
100%. On a daily basis, I get people calling me going, oh, what do you mean I can't demolish this house? I've got grand plans to rebuild this modern house. Or what do you mean I can't extend into the rear there? There's a mapped waterway corridor. What do you mean I can't do this? What do you mean I can't do that? And I'm like, did you do any of these checks before you purchased the property? And they look at me like just dumbfounded going, what are you talking about? And I can't blame them, because there's not that education and the awareness out there. Everyone thinks the conveyancer is going to do these searches and the conveyancer is going to raise those alarm bells. No, they're not. Even if you tick the town planning search, they're just going to come back most of the time and tell you this is the previous approvals on the property. That means nothing to the average person. It doesn't tell you what you can do in the future. So yes.
So very important. Well, as with everything and how we think about it, future planning is important. So thank you so much, Peter, for coming in and chatting to us today. If you have any questions for us or for Peter, let us know. I will pop her details down in the link and you can get to us.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.